I still have faith in PB. I'm kind of going with Cookies here. I'm more of Cookies mindset at this point, really.
I get the faith, but at least the problem here, if I have picked Kafe, they're certainly feeling comfortable on it, and we'll see how they try to set the pace with the ban phase. Of course, the one time we saw PB play Kafe in this stage, you recall, they previously banned the Sledge against one shot, but they've also shown to be heavily preferenced to the Thatcher. Every other attacker ban they've had has been Thatcher, so makes sense that PB might ban him out here. For IF as well, I don't know, Benny. Might go something a little bit different.
Maybe Nomad, maybe Heart Breacher, Maverick. Maybe Ying? I don't know. Oh, Nomad, I was right. Thank you. Right.
Another common ban for IF, actually. I believe Thatcher and Nomad are IF's two most common bans. So, actually, for both these teams, getting their most common ban out the door.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they banned Nomad. Crap. Oh.
Yeah. And then I'd imagine probably on Kafe, Mira Valkyrie tends to be the ban phase. This goes, yep, Valk, again, another common ban. Not only for IF, but for PB as well. And in terms of the op bans, these teams actually line up pretty well, except for that second attacker ban, but both of them like to ban the Thatcher, both of them like to ban the Valk and the Mira on defense as well. So really, for these two teams in particular, this is about as standard as a ban phase you can get because everyone gets what they want in the end.
Pretty much, yeah. This is normal Kafe at this point. See these bans really. Like the only thing I'd change out would be Nomad, but it's IF, like you said. They always ban Nomad at this point. They've banned Nomad like half of the season at this point.
And I think actually PB banned Thatcher every match except one. So they got what they wanted. Everyone is getting what they wanted on this map of Kafe, except PB, depending on how this map ends. I think it could be close, Benny. I don't think it's going to be dominant by any means.
No, I don't think it'd be dominant per se. I hope not, at least.
Yeah, hope not. Also, we will see an immediate 6-pick from the Aruni to the Capcan. Aruni might be trying to bait out a potential cocktail hold, as that's probably the site that Aruni is most common on, but a switch to the Capcan means that, Benny, we'll see a strat that, I believe it was pioneered by Thunder Logic, Penguin's old team, all the way back in T3, where you run this Capcan on the basement, send some Capcan traps all throughout the second and third floor. So already, not only are we seeing some solid territory between these two teams, but for PB, we're bringing out an old reliable, or at least an old favorite.
Well, too, especially if they go for that roam like you usually see on this site, and we've seen so many teams get forced in that 30 seconds to drop down the freezer hatch, and you put cap cans on both the door and the window. That's just a death sentence at that point, really. Trying to go for a plant as a cap can trap, you're trying to run 15 seconds left in the site and get a plant down. It could be what they're aiming for here at this point, too, and we'll see. Well, the big thing is going to be, again, wasting that time and forcing him into that funnel, forcing him to jump down that freezer hatch with no time left. And really, we'll see. Well, yeah, you said that Thunder Logic had the Capcan traps on the second and third floor. Well, we'll see how active they are and whether or not we see the new, the new change of the Capcan where you can have 2, 3, 4, 5, or how many you want on one door.
But also look at this lineup coming out from the attack, Benny. Lion and the Finka in play. A big critique of IF has been their slow and sluggish attacks, especially early on in the season. But what better operators could you have on the attack right now than to try to facilitate something a little bit quicker? Not only the E1D to try to clear out those roamers, if anybody decides to get aggressive, maybe Eska wants to rotate up those red stairs, or if anybody that's on that second floor, like Spirits currently rotating down Brown, you want to try to isolate them and take them down, and the E1D will certainly do you well. For the Finka charge as well, whether you're clearing out the roam or attacking the site, getting that little nice health boost is always going to be impactful. But of course, 50 seconds in, we've yet to see IF enter the building just yet. Still plenty of time opening up hatches, and I imagine some intel will likely be found in either Penguin or Spirits, the two players playing off-site.
So the question is going to be next, is PB going to stick around and try and take a kill, or they're just going to let that time go pass by as they're being droned out? And like you said, sluggish attacks is the big thing here, so IF needs to be, pushing it forward and see if they can at least get a pick here or force these players back. And already we see Penguin, playing with Spirits here, pushing back down those white stairs. And Inrio is going to be the one to walk down and see if he can take a kill off, but he's being cautious about it. He's not being too headstrong about it. He's just waiting for maybe some aggression from PB. But no, those PB players are pushing back towards site, and nobody's sticking around to take a fight with these players. But besides Eska, actually, Eska downstairs has that cap can playing coach check. There goes the line, which may have been needed later on in that execute.
Especially since all of Parabellum have now rotated back to side. I think is a good move, by the way. Wasted about half the round, and some more time would be wasted just implicitly by IF needing to continue clearing out the rest of the map. Losing those EE1Ds, moving onto the entry into the site, trying to clear out and isolate players like Eska or Spirits in coat check and behind long bar. It's going to be extremely difficult without those EE1Ds, or at the very least, a lot harder than it would have been had Arrow remained alive. They do still have the Sledge on the board, and Giddy as well. I think those are two very important factors. He'll narrowly escape a C4, blown a little bit wayward off to his right, and so he can continue opening up this ceiling to his heart's content. Will spot one rotating out for just a second, but unfortunately the bullets are not able to land. Spots him again. Penguin unaware of Giddy's presence. A little bit late of a trade, but they managed to land that kill nonetheless. Bullet's in a precarious spot right now, trapped inside Bakery. Enrio can move on in and cut him down. IF take back the man advantage.
Oh, back and forth we go. We're going to the dying seconds, and it's this dying seconds is important here. We're 20 seconds left to go, and it's always been the issue with IF is really trying to get the executes down when, as well, the coin the term, red zone comes into play for this team. Grenades come out. They're trying to take control by Stairs because they know he's down. Actually, there's a pinch by 2 players. Take him out. Spears goes down. A grenade kills Vivid, but it doesn't matter because the rest of the players in PB are dead.
I think a lot of that round really has to come down to the call to rotate to Bakery towards the end. They started clearing out up top, but instead of trying to take down on the backside, push down white, push down red, which if they had done that would have been very difficult. You have Eska playing inside of Kochek, Spirits inside of Longbar. There were plenty of precautions that PB had set up to make taking from that way extremely difficult. But on the Bakery side of things, not nearly the case. Giddy's able to find Penguin up above, even the man count. And then they find out that at a minute or 45 seconds left, Kool-Aid is still sitting inside Bakery. He has not rotated back inside yet. I immediately say, hey, we can rotate down, pinch this guy, and if one of us falls, we can at least keep the man count even. This is an easy trade to work through. They make the entry into the site. PB are caught off guard. That was an excellent rotation by IF, and one that was so good, PB will change sites immediately.
Yeah, it's like, try it once, it didn't really work out too well, and yeah, it was slow, but we've seen IF have slow attacks, but they're building it up well. They're still getting the execute down in those dying seconds and creating, that rotate like you said at the end of time. It was a good rotate. They did it well. They execute perfectly, not say perfectly, but execute well in that instance. So we go on to top floor for PB, and well, you can see the castles on the board and the Rooney. So I'm wondering if they're doing that same old shot we've seen from quite a few teams this season on Kafe, where you put the castle barricade on that double door between Cigar and Piano, have someone play right inside that cubby and Cigar, and just sit there and wait and waste time. And especially too now that Castle has 4 barricades now too, rather than just 3. They take less hits to open, but still, well, Kool-Aid's gonna already kill Giddy in the first 5 seconds.
I was not able to see, unfortunately, but okay, there we go. So, ooh, spawn peek from right outside of Reading, rotating back. And not only that, oh, Benny, that was the sledge, too. On this site in particular, as you hinted, a lot of this site revolves around taking down those castle barricades and Aruni gates. More often than not, there's a couple castle barricades placed on those Christmas windows. And guess who's the player to open that? It's Giddy on the sledge. Now, they'll either have to use a Gone from Inrio and maybe some hard breach charge, or not some hard breach charge, just some X Kairos from Vivid, which of course they have plenty of utility to do, but it still would have been a lot easier with Giddy alive.
Yeah, that is huge. The grenades aren't a big thing because you still have Yon, like you said, and they still have, I think, well, yeah, because Finka now has grenades back too as well, doesn't she? So grenades aren't really big of a deal, but yeah, having that sledgehammer available to deal with these, now they have to 9-hit, or like you said, grenades or next Kairos or something, really, but nobody's playing Cigar. Now that they got the first opening pick, they're just using this to really cut off people from seeing what's going on, make sure it's difficult to push in here and there, and just make them waste utility. Well, they use that Gone 6 to destroy that first barricade, but they still got to destroy the Rune Gate behind it. But really, it should be no matter because nobody's playing Pixel. There's nobody playing nearby. There's only one player inside the bathroom, so this person on the stage should be able to jump in and take control with no interference per se.
There is still Spirits contesting Bathroom, not on a long angle, but behind a deployable shield. Sometimes we see this position played in tandem with a Pixel shield, but PB have opted to instead go for just that. But right as a nade sails on in to destroy the Goyo shield, Spirits rotates out, as if by clairvoyance or some kind of foreshadowing, manages to make it out alive and continue the man advantage, or continues holding the man advantage for PB. IF also continues to take momentum on this Christmas side of things. They know they have Christmas control, they have top red control, but now is the matter of pushing on in. Arrow on the Skylight's going to be a really good position. He can watch anybody rotating through Freezer, and with the EE1Ds as well, in a relatively safe position to continue using that gadget. Enrio appears to be the one getting the most aggressive on IF so far. 45 seconds left, still has that Yana clone to gain out any remaining intel, might not have any drones, but with that primary gadget, he can continue seeing if anybody's playing aggressive just yet. Going into the final 30 seconds, and everyone from PB starting to rotate back, it's likely going to be on Inrio to make the play.
Oh, they're waiting for some kind of call here. Grenade another kick comes out Spirits inside of Freezer, taking some damage, but still no push yet. And he pushes Melted Voice, tries to push in, gets that kill on the Subarctic. Subarctic though, with the refrag on the grenade on the Spirits though, clearing out Freezer, but still these long angles into Cocktail is the issue. Great pings come out. Iron gets killed, Melted with that ping and help. Penguins there to refrag from Cocktail and Inreal. We're down to 10 seconds. It's now down to the last two players of IF. Just try and push in, but shotgun's ready for him. It's Penguin coming back, running through Bar. But really, there's no time left. It's Vivid. He's got 2 seconds. He doesn't have the diffuser in hand, and he can't get anything done. PB will take the second round.
Is a very efficient clear by IF early on inside of Christmas and Cigar, but thankfully for them, and I guess thankfully for PB as well, there was nobody there. Compounded by the opening kill that Kool-Aid managed to get based off a spawn peek at the beginning of the round, PB were like, all right, we have that man advantage. Maybe they didn't even know who they got, but they could just rotate back. They could just say, all right, let's wait. Let's let them come to us. They're the ones that have to walk up this hill. That's exactly what they did. And then when one player fell again, I don't remember exactly who got the kill. I believe it might have been Eska, if I do recall. He's normally the one that likes to play that castle. Onto not Subarctic. But anyway, when Eska got that kill, IF started to play the catch-up. They got that trade. Inrio moves on in. He gets that kill. That's the play that needed to happen. But he's inside the side all alone. Angles all around him. Everyone at PB looking where he is. They just continued playing the man advantage throughout the entire round. And all of that started Kool-Aid's first kill onto Giddy.
Yep, that was a big one too. And it's unfortunate. They didn't have the grenades, they didn't have the sledgehammer. I don't know if the sledgehammer was really the big of a deal, but unfortunately it seemed like they were definitely slow on the uptake to push in, and they didn't have any other players on that, Cocktail side to push in. So it seemed like at that point it was just them trying to siege into, the defenses that PB had set up for that take. So in the end, unfortunate for IF, they couldn't make it happen, and they just kind of didn't have the pieces available to them, just because, one man down. You don't have the manpower available to push people around and put people in different places to try and pinch out players from Parabellum's defense. So we go on to a Reading and Fireplace defense next for PB. Well, let's see if there's any kind of aggressive takes from anybody from PB yet. Nobody's really grabbed. No aggressive peeks. Nobody trying to peek out, take the hill well. But Spartak does take a damage action. Never mind, I lied.
And that was Kool-Aid. Once again, you heard the Vector ring out. Don't know exactly where from, or at least maybe it was just, maybe someone else shot Subarctic, and it was just Kool-Aid who I happened to hear, but it's Penguin, the first to fall. Inrio, not sure where he is on that kill. I believe he's on the window right now. Could have just broke it open, spotted Penguin. Yup, there it is, rotating through that Cigar double door. Catches him off guard. Maybe he was facing Inrio, maybe he wasn't, but Benny, now the opening pick, it's gone the favor of IF.
Well, last time that happened was the first round. They won that round for them. But, anything can happen still, because you still need to see IF clear out this top floor. And with the pulse and play on the side of Eska, that's information galore to help him out, staying alive on his top floor. So, IF, first things first, they see if clear out this pixel, take control of Piano, and start pushing these players upstairs off of the top floor. Or, they could try and, maybe circumvent it and just try and push on site, try to bypass it. Well, that's the decision that seems like they're not going for at the moment. Looking to clear out that pixel space, clear out the ADSs, and then destroy that. Bounce off the leg. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's unlucky. But either way, Spirits was likely going to rotate off no matter what. They already sent the 2 flashes in, knew the ADSs were burnt. Now Spirits can rotate off. The shield destroyed. IF can start pushing up as well. But there are still plenty of not only defenders, but also utility in front of them to continue this top floor extension alive. With Spirits and Kool-Aid still holding fast on top of White and on Cocktail's side as well, Arrow will rotate over to try to put some pressure onto Kool-Aid. Might be getting aggressive, trying to take some shots. Extremely risky from him. He'll instead rotate down, but no, instead he's rejoining Spirits again.
Is he gonna jump out White? I thought he was gonna jump out White window for a second.
I thought he was too.
But yeah, still, they have to try and clear these people upstairs, but they have at least pushed them back. So that pressure from IF is there, and the PB are at man disadvantage, so they're trying to keep the places, keep their members ready for that eventual execute, because it seems like again and again IF's big issue is they're making these executes happen in the dying seconds. So PB's trying to once again take advantage of that, make sure that they fall into, they figure out where those members are, they fall into those funnels that PB can take advantage of and win these fights in those dying seconds. But again, there's gonna be an issue because he's alive this time. He has a sledgehammer in hand, and
that's true.
He's gonna make it difficult for these anchors who are trying to wait for that right time.
Now the E1D comes on through. Even though it's 30 seconds left, if Giddy's able to get these holes and they can effectively transfer down, time is not so much a factor as long as you have this vertical control. Kool-Aid was spotted just as the hole opens up, but it's the C4 to take the life of Giddy. Kool-Aid put down to 1 HP, but the man advantage is now equalized between these two teams. If it starts to put the bomb on the floor, is Parabellum aware? It doesn't appear they are. There's certainly a way of Arrow's presence now, but him and Inri are cutting them both down. The vertical control going much more in the favor of IF. No, Spirits was still up there. He tried to retake it. Now he's got to hop back down, and Vivid will cut him down through the wall. IF take the lead in round count once again.
Oh, man. So, that, again, slow rounds from IF, but they did what they needed to do. They pushed those roamers back. They got the opening pick, too, onto Penguin, who's rotating between Cigar and Piano, giving them an advantage early. And even though time was ticking, the fact that Giddy was still alive, he still had the sledgehammer, still had that vertical play to push those anchors back, push them around, and create that execute into reading, get the plant down, and Arrow playing it well, playing the cover perfectly, and Inrio elsewhere then as well, cutting down players left and right that were trying to rotate, trying to push back into reading, gain control, and stop the plant. And unfortunately, well, IF at that point had created the execute they wanted, even though there was, well, not about 15 seconds left. They still had the execute they needed. They still had the players in place to make it happen. They take the round. And that's kind of what IF has been at this point. I remember it was interesting back SH back in like the first stage were always like kind of that you know, we characterized them as that, you know, that aggressive team, but now they're more of like a team that just creates executes and go off and plays pretty well from, even if it takes a while.
Well, I think at least their performance on this map so far on their attacks as well has definitely shown a level of not only prep but comfort that I think IF needed to bring out in this first map, especially no matter what it was, in order to try to get the leg up over PB. And so far, it's working. PB have won that one round on Cocktail, but those two other secondary sites have both gone the way of IF. Parabellum will go back to reading, not trying to play the site gambit. They'll try to press their luck on this one in particular. We'll see some changes. Kool-Aid rotating from the Goyo to the Cade. Maybe that's just to maybe put it on the Cigar wall, make it a bit harder to move into Cigar and Christmas or move between the sites. Or maybe an Electroclaw inside, maybe Freezer as well. But overall, to try and make the clear from IF that much more slow. Because, in all fairness, for IF, they did eventually get to those soft floors and start opening up the floors, but it was only 45 to 30 seconds left. That is all they needed, but maybe just waste 15 to 20 more seconds, and that could be enough.
Yeah, especially because PB couldn't play much aggressive because they were trying to, you know, you said before, wait that time out and try and make them force and execute. But even then, with the man disadvantage and all the vertical play, it was still very difficult to do that. So maybe this time if someone doesn't die early, they have a chance to play aggressive and try and waste more time on this roam clear for IF. And let's see what happens first, though, because again, it took them quite a while to push those players back. By the time they had gained control, like you said, they had 45 seconds, 30 seconds to create that vertical pressure and push those anchors back. So let's see if that happens once again. We have the same kind of hold. You have, you know, this time Spirits playing the Jaegers playing inside of Freezer, and they have the castle barricades too to really allow them to play in Freezer for a longer time. And maybe this time the players on Parabellum are trying to stay here for their lives and just try and fight back and stay alive up here rather than push back later on. Even though time was on their side, I thought, and still IF would make it happen though.
Spirits is certainly in a tricky spot right now, stuck back in Freezer with one or two members of IF on the skylight watching his every move, and an E1D as well. Could be difficult to find his way out. The first one rings through. Spirits still stuck, frozen inside this position. What that means with half the round gone, both him and Melted stand fast. They have not rotated out just yet, but members of IF are quickly moving on up. Enrio will send a nade, use it as a fake out to try to catch one of them off guard, but he's quickly spotted. Now he might be sending it down right, but everyone from PB is looking his way. A C4 lands right next to him. Good play, Enrio. Could have worked, but he just sent it so far. He isolated himself, and everyone from PB capitalized.
Yeah, big thing there was the pulse was there just pinging his spot the entire time as he ran. I just said too far into white, allowing for that pulse to just, you know, ping his place and be like, okay, he's right here, guys. We just blow him up. Let's get him out of here. Let's get him out of this place. And now we're down to the last 45 seconds, and they still haven't cleared this top floor. And these members of PB, at this point, I'm assuming they're playing for the lives because the 40 seconds is not much you can do for an execute if you haven't cleared that top floor. Spirits, though, gets one kill with two as well to his name. He's stopped that entire clear top floor in a C4. Actually, I thought it was a C4 down him, actually. It was a pistol. Killed him.
He killed him with the pistol.
I think he got downed by the C4 first.
Oh, maybe. Okay.
Yeah, he got hit by a C4 and then he shot him.
Either way, that was pretty funny. Arrow, last one alive. He has one E1D, so might be able to get a kill, but at this point for a 1v5, not winning this round for IF, Spirits will jump out, get his fourth. Flawless for PB. If we ever needed an argument to say, hey, we still got this, guys. It's only 4 rounds in. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. That's certainly the one to do it. Excellent showing from PB in that game, but honestly, Benny, that play from Inrio, I get what he was going for, and it actually seemed like it could have worked if he was just a little bit quicker, because Penguin had his back to him.
Yeah, yeah.
But then after that, he was just kind of stuck in the middle of
But
all of
if someone was
Parabellum.
at least was there for them too, like in a different angle. I know someone didn't finally go to the white stairs window, but there was like it just sucks because there was no way to refrag that because the C4 from below white. And it maybe if someone was pushing bar at the same time and had that pincher into white, maybe a bit different into cocktail. But again, like yeah, he just kind of pushed too far by himself in a bit of a I wouldn't say would you call it brazen to that point?
I definitely would. Throwing a nade and running to catch up to that nade. Yeah, I'd call that brazen. Maybe a little crazy. But anyway, now finally PB will have cocktail unlocked, so they can go back to a site that has worked extremely well for them so far. The only other site they've won, but of course now with that reading room in mind, this is no. Cocktail was no longer Parabellum's most dominant defense. It was, however, pretty strong. Kool-Aid got the opening pick based on a run out onto Giddy, and while the operator himself losing the sledge didn't necessarily hurt them that much, it was clear over the course of that round that just losing a man in general was detrimental to IF because they were continuously on the back foot in the man count after that. It was excellent trade work by PB.
Oh, it's cool gonna do it once again, and yeah, it just seems like yeah they didn't have quite the the strategy with the 4 people they had available to push in, and they just kept walking into the maze that Parabellum created and the angles they had already been waiting for as they walk through bar and walk through freezer into cocktail and just taking fights with members who are ready and waiting. So IF this time looks like they're once again looks like they're pushing towards that piano side. And they haven't really changed up the lineup, so like they've stuck to this line and Finca the entire game so far, entire half so far. And really, with that lineup, you have to go for a piano into a freezer take because you're not bringing the buck, you're not bringing someone that can take and show a cocktail at all from below. So I wonder if they're just still going to run into that same kind of plan that PB has in place.
PBR also running, I'm pretty sure, the exact same lineup overall, and if there is one difference I've not noticed, I believe it's just the same methodology throughout. All right, this is a commit by Eska. Crouch walking out through the door. Spots no one, unfortunately, so gives away his position. Members of IF will probably go peek over and be like, what? What's going on there? But he's rotated back, so not putting himself at risk. Like that from Eska, don't need to overcommit. If you don't see anybody in that first half a second, no point in pressing your luck any further. And that does mean half the round is now gone. PB they don't have the man advantage, but it's 5-5 so far, and IF are just now getting into the building.
Once again, we're kind of looking towards that same kind of play that Parabellum's expecting. Bulletproof Camp spotting all these players pushing, or spotting the drones that are droning up piano. When the first things first is going to be pushing out the Jaeger spirits out of bathroom as they did before. They pushed him out, but he just went into a freezer and he just sat in freezer and waited them to push in the freezer at that point. So it's kind of that same kind of style that pushing into this maze, this almost tower defense that they've created, expecting. And well, of course, one grenade goes out. Looks like they haven't burned those ADSs in the bathroom. Second comes out, we'll destroy that Goyo shield, that Vulcan shield in there, but still another freezer. And once again, we're just pushing into these one obstacle after another that PB has set up.
Yeah, before in their previous round, they got that man advantage, and nobody has even taken an iota of damage so far, but it's still PB, I would say, holding the advantage firmly in their grasp. 40 seconds left, and IF are in the same spot. Inrio likely the one that has to make a play, or somebody does at some point, and Spirits, again, getting aggressive against these attackers. He'll peek out once again, but it's Arrow to get 2, in fact. Melted and Penguin both fall. Maybe that was on Skylight, I'm not entirely sure, but there will be an answer back by Eska, so we're in even ground once again for both of these teams. Spirits contesting a very long angle all the way onto Newbound, but now it's only him and Eska left. The two dominant French Canadians. One falls. It's all left up to the Aruni, who tried to get the run out. He collapsed too, but Giddy rounds him out in the end. IF, it's back and forth. They've taken the lead for the second time in this match, or the third time, actually.
Third time, but that was a crazy round though. That was just started out so well, thinking they get that opening pick. A Spirit's still playing bathroom pretty well, even though they have open holes. But then, yeah, you saw that they get the refrags. They take control of bar. They frag out with frags, literally, the players inside a cocktail. And it was at that point that they had just full control of, bar and cocktail. And they were pushing back these players like Eska and Spirits have to come from that white side, come from bath, and come from white stairs and try to push back, try to fight back, which they did almost. They almost had that. They put into a 1v1 at that point, but it was still like, it was a 3v1 for Eska at that point. He gets 2 kills and he gets refragged at that point. So almost a good try from PB. They almost bring it back. But still, just like that control from IF in that dying seconds, they do it so many times in so many maps where they're in that last minute, they're in those dying seconds of the round. They still somehow make things happen. They gain control, they take it fights, and they win fights in this crazy moments.
Continuing to hold ground on their map pick. Again, this is what you want to see, especially on the attack, a side that that isn't exactly the most favored. In the final round, though, we will see a change come through for IF. No longer will Subarctic be on the Finka. 5 rounds he played it. Now we'll switch to the Jackal. Here's the interesting thing. So previously, IF didn't really have to do much well, they were actively roam clearing, but they didn't have to actually kill anybody because PB got an opening pick, and then they immediately rotated back, just hightailed it back to site. But if that doesn't happen, it's a 5v5. I think that Jackal could do a very good job at trying to nail down players like Spirits, like Penguin, who is getting aggressive on that top floor. Don't think it'll happen again because he's instead rotated to the Cade. He played the Smoke last time. So we are seeing some changes from both these teams in the final round, but big worry here is Kool-Aid. Where is he playing, and is he sticking further in the site? Because he was caught off guard last time. Looks like he's instead going to sit inside a kitchen, which I think is a good move.
Yeah, last time there wasn't really a lot. Like they get the opening pick for, like there was a trade in the beginning, but it really like PB didn't play much of that roam last time. They played second floor a little bit. They were running around, but at this moment, notice moment of pressure, they pushed back. So the Jackal pick is interesting here because nobody from PB really tried to take fights. Though maybe they don't know they're going to kitchen and maybe thought they were going to reading and fireplace something like that. Which technically they could have. No, they couldn't have actually. No, they couldn't have gone outside. Actually, never mind. They could have gone back to upstairs, but I don't know what exactly the Jackal here is for. Because really, PB didn't play aggressive really in this kitchen round last time at least. But we'll see what happens.
They did fall back a little bit, and I think the Jackal is meant to try to counter that potential, to catch people as they fall back. But as you see, not only are they not getting aggressive, they're all 5 of them downstairs even quicker than they were last time when they were facing a little bit more pressure and got the opening pick. This is a heavy, heavy anchor from Parabellum right now, with still some avenues to get aggressive. You saw Eska contemplate looking up those red stairs, took a peek, decided to rotate back down. And on the one hand, that is good. They are secure for the time being, but it gives IF plenty of time to get that verticality on the top floor that helped them so much. Plenty of time to rotate to either a bakery or a back take, whatever side they feel is weaker. And that could be enough to sway the round. That little bit of time IF have in there to do with.
There's no cap can either, too, so there's nothing to really stop a rush if they drop down freezer like last time. But the smoke tier from Melted and that common smoke placement could be big to stop that push in and rush into kitchen. So we'll see here. Subarctic, getting the PDW, looking around. Is that silencer on it?
I believe it is silenced.
That is silenced. Well, it doesn't have a lot of recoil, so I guess it doesn't really matter too much anyway. But it looks like he's going to ping out the kite. It's on site, so again, just pinging out these players on site, and that will cause Melted to smoke out that area, knowing that he's hearing that noise next to them. He's hearing the shots of the PDW. And so far, what is IF's plan here? Looks like they have vertical control. They're pushing out those players anchor-wise, but so far, nothing's really happened.
And one change made by PB, reinforcing the hatch. That definitely shows they were going for that anchor play, and now because IF have to open that up, and they've committed X-Kairos to opening it, PB know that in all likelihood, they're going for a freezer white stairs take. E1D will spot out 2 members, but the issue right now is Melted is still alive inside of VIP. Penguin might be taken down. A nade sent on in. That might have been to the site. I'm not sure. Inrios managed to weave his way on in. Melted's not had nearly the impact I thought he would. 2 members of the attack have just managed to move their way into the site, and Vivid's getting the bomb down. And E1D perfectly timed to stop everyone from moving. Vivid could get that plant down with no problem whatsoever. A flawless round for IF to end the half. They take the lead 4-2, and Benny, that was a beautiful execute. Dead in the night. IF got away with that.
I was definitely scared because, yeah, it's again and again, IF takes so long to get things done. But again, it's not so much that they're stalling, but they're creating the execute, which we've seen them do better over the season, where they're not stalling. They're actually working to, create angles and create that execute. And we saw right there exactly that. They opened up the holes, push all the anchors in certain places. They knew where they were at that point and had players ready for that push in. And that first pick was the biggest one because that player who was killed, like Kaid, was the member inside a bunker who was holding fast for the eventual execute down freezer, which at that point you kind of expected because you didn't hear much of everything else happening towards Breakery, towards Red Stairs, and it falls into place. They get that first pick, snowball into that push into sight. Why don't they snowball? They just kind of drop down the hatch, they walk in sight, and they start planting, and because the E1Ds, the other members are just kind of standing still, and they didn't have quite the intel to know that they were planting behind the bomb chassis in kitchen cooking, or kitchen service, I believe was actually, I can't remember what it's called, but they were planting there at that point, and they didn't have the intel to know what was happening. And by the time it happened, by the time they figured out what was going on, they tried to spring into place, and those IF members were already waiting in angles to stop the push.
You're feeling good, IF. Getting a 4-2 on your attacking half, moving to the defense, a side that I'd say that IF also definitely feel a lot more comfortable on. Maybe that's not entirely true anymore, but this is also where we get to see what PB can offer on their attacks. Against a one-shot, despite the fact they lost that match, attack was actually PB's better side. I believe they got a 4-2 half on it at the side swap, so this is by no means bad for them. And now with Penguin switching onto the entry, as CJ mentioned on the desk, he has been racking up those kills, but more importantly, racking up those opening picks for his team because of that move from Hard Breach to Zofia. That's exactly what we're seeing Parabellum do right now, with also running the Spirits, or not the Spirits, the Finka and Lion as well. Finka on Spirits, Lion on Melted. Can also go for a similar strategy to IF. They might not have the Yana, but the Zofia still a comfort pick for Penguin that offers a lot of utility.
Well, so far, again, we get that roam clear once again because it's kitchen service, kitchen cooking for another time. Because this time, though, it's PB on the offense, looking to clear this roam. And the question is, in the past, though, from IF, we don't see a lot of roams from IF. They don't play aggressive on the defense very often. So, again, we can see there's no silhouettes on this top floor or the second floor. Nobody really roaming on the side of F. They're mostly all playing on site horizontally. So, really, the question is, if PB have figured this out, they can just go to work, go to that, the train, to mining, and to opening up that floor, push these players out of those anchor positions and push on the site. And really, that seems to be the anchor place is the big thing from IF seems so far.
And of course, that gives Eska plenty of opportunities to open up that ceiling, try to find anybody that's roaming around, whether it be Subarctic or maybe Arrow moving around inside the site. And with this map control they've obtained quickly, you can see Spirits also contest aggressive angles to see if Inrio decides to get a little bit careless, go investigating, and end up losing his life on those white stairs. But for now, that's all we will see. For IF, it's still a very good anchor hold. They have that Echo as well to deny the plant, so the likelihood of some kind of sneaky execute like we saw from IF in that final round, not as likely from PB because of the existence of those yokais. With Melted rotating down to the Christmas, the VIP double window as well, it will contest Inrio a little bit more directly and make it a lot easier to take him out if Parabellum decide to go that way.
Well, here you hear, it looks like the hatch was opened up as it destroyed the Electro Claw on that freezer hatch. And so far, like you said, if they just go for this freezer play, it's just going to be walking into the arms of what IF is expecting. Though at the same point, if you can figure out where those yokais are at with these drones, you could try to nullify them early, make that play happen still, though we'll see. As it looks like the finger charge has been boosted, and those members of PB, looks like the execute's happening. Flashed out, Inrio is blind as heck. Oh my god,
there it is. Live was like 5 flashbangs or something, all dedicated to clearing out Inrio. Subarctic falling as well. Spirits' entry going extremely well so far. We'll spot one rotating back inside to Kochek, who just gets more fear put in his heart than as many bullets. But now with Parabellum have this map controlled, the man advantage dominantly as well. Arrow will rotate into Bakery. I think that's a good move. Giddy has to hold it down by himself, but if those yokais are still alive, they can deny Kool-Aid getting the bomb on the floor. But first, they have to find him. Where is he? They spot him, but no! He misses the first shot and the second as well! He had the good rotate. He made the smart play, but both Sonic Bursts miss. Parabellum win their first attacking round.
Well, that was quite the round, and really just exploding through white, gaining control of white, getting rid of the player inside of VIP, or boots as you call it, both of them, and pushing in, just having those long angles down Red Hall, cutting off any kind of rotations from those members who were either Kochek or Red Stairs or any have you, or pushing up in Bakery as well. Just big on PB to do that cutoff, and they push in the site. And the big thing to talk about was the yokais, but because those yokais are always usually set up for that bunker plant, they had them go for the sink plant instead because they had the cutoff in Red Hall, so you can't push the double door to get that trade or push out. And especially because they had probably vertical control as well to stop the double door push of anybody pushing from kitchen service. Well, they had all the kills anyway, either that point anyway, so that was big on PB to read that well and get that plan down. So we go on to our next site. IF that could try it again. They're going to go to Reading and Fireplace instead.
We'll see some adjustments in their lineup. Arrow could be getting a little bit more aggressive. He was on that Echo. He swapped to the Aruni, so you'll likely have those Aruni gates, not only on some of the site doors, as you can see on the door that leads out into Red Hall, or on top of Brown, outside of Reading, whatever you want to call it. One leads out there to probably stop any kind of rush from happening, just sending in through that door, then moving into sight, and also to make it a little bit more difficult once the attack ends up transitioning down to that way. And likely also allocating some Rooney gates on top, making some rotates. That's the goal of Arrow's play. But beyond that, it's a fairly standard hold from IF on this top floor. They have the Cade, will likely put them on those 2 walls you see, or the 2 panels that Arrow is reinforcing right now, Subarctic is reinforcing right now. The ones to his right as well. We'll likely see an Electric Claw dedicated there to, again, make Freezer a little bit bit more safe to play and also make PB take a little bit more time trying to clear it out.
Well, hopefully we won't see something from PB just try to run through Whitehall and just chase a grenade.
That was
But yeah,
something.
that was interesting to see video. But yeah, so big thing was that first round from we saw this from PB on their defense, and the big thing is they at least they cleared out the first time because they had that opening pick. It was kind of big for them to get the opening pick of the Penguin to push those players back. So we'll see if PB can do the same on their attack, and how they're gonna get this first pick. Because IF is so far has always been team that docile defense where they don't really try to go for aggressive picks. But they still have to push these players out. They still have to figure out a way to pinch them out. And the Electric Claw is the big thing here because they can't open up that freeze wall without destroying the Electric Claw, which is going to be very difficult. Maybe a grenade from Skylight could be something that need to get into this freezer to get destroyed the Electric Claw. But we'll see what they do here and what they do to destroy it. Well, there's the grenade from Eska. Can it destroy it?
That's the question, because we saw IF try to nade it last time and it was unsuccessful,
Oh.
but this go around, the nade lands. They do manage to destroy that Electric Claw off that wall, and now you can breach charge the soft walls, X-Kairos the reinforced walls, get open whatever wall you want in round number 8 right now, and actually it'll even force Inrio to rotate back towards Cocktail, so IF are not even half the round gone, are all fully pressed up against the wall on that side, but no! One's hiding behind the bar, Subarctic has gone unread, but he drops! He could have gotten Penguin. That would have been a freebie right there. But instead, he does play it safe and rotate off. That could have been the opening pick for IF. Maybe traded.
That
Still
could
an
be
open
huge.
pick.
That could have been huge right there. The placement was perfect, but yeah, playing it safe could be important here. We're looking to, place players back up red though. So you see Arrow, another player, pushing back towards red, looking for that eventual execute. And the question is Parabellum going for a ready execute or are they going for a fireplace execute here? As those players are waiting here in Flandry and inside of site 90 hallway. And there's two players ready to pounce on players jumping in the pillar. So the question is, does PB have the necessary intel, necessary drones to know these players are ready for that eventual aggression to stop the execute from PB? That's gonna be the question. They have 5 drones left. I wonder where they're at.
That is the question. Everyone from IF has rotated into Dining and into Train, so they might be playing for a bit more of a retake, but no, 5 drones, but they were not able to spot Giddy inside the site. Cuts the head off of Spirits, and Parabellum in no position to try to trade that out unless they go for an execute in short order, which it appears like they are. The Renegade burned. Kool-Aid is looking to push on in, but who's there for support? Melted's watching his back from New Balk, but he's just sitting there, peeking constantly. Giddy takes him down too, and now 2v3 thanks to Eska and Melted's efforts, but now they're quickly falling. The only one left, Melted, he's dropped down from New Hatch, not able to pick up the diffuser, got to go for the kills. Giddy takes him down as well. A triple from the Cade in that round, and it just seemed like PB got all that control and weren't quite sure what to do with it after that. The rotate down was extremely uncertain for them.
Yeah, it seems like they had the control they needed, but they didn't have quite the intel to know because it was ended up being a 5v5 execute at that point. And the question always in execute is where are the players at? Where are the defenders at in that execute? And well, one, they didn't quite know that Giddy was just lying down in the middle of site, middle of fireplace. Just kind of waiting for someone to peek those white stairs, and then using that same angle, lying down, seeing through those footholds all the way towards the doorway into reading. Another big kill, and it was kind of seemed like maybe a bit of a wish-wash or not knowing where to go at that point, because you saw, I think it was Kool-Aid was the only member to drop down at one point and just stare into reading, looking for somebody maybe that was peeking up being aggressive on the side of IF. But there were still players in Train from the defensive IF. There's still players in Fireplace watching at angles, and it just didn't seem like Parabellum had quite the intel they needed to make the execute happen without getting pounced in the back or getting stabbed in the back from somebody. Well, there was definitely flanks that were stopped by Parabellum, but unfortunately at that point that execute had been funneled out the window.
Yeah, it was always going to be difficult after that point. And for IF rotating up as well, this is a site that doesn't offer, some of the same advantages that IF had on reading. IF rotated back very early. Well, not very early, but they rotated back, had 2 players in Train, 2 players in Dining, 1 player inside of reading to contest, but everyone else holding long angles, kind of playing for a retake, waiting for Parabellum to drop. You can't do that on Cocktail. You just can't really do that. You can rotate further and further back into the site, but you can't really play for that trap style of play style. You can't collapse around them because PB are, in all likelihood, are going to get that cigar and Christmas control at some point and start to push you back. That's what the castle barricades, the Aruna gates, and the Goyo shields are meant to do. Really, all the utility on IF is meant to make taking that as difficult as possible and the transition a lot more difficult as well. But for IF, they need to take those head-on gunfights, and they can't rely on that trap like they did in reading.
is so. Oh, except they are playing for that cigar control, like we've seen, and playing that cubby, playing cigar to try and hold off as long as possible. And they, of course, they have Rooney in that castle as you usually see. And yeah, it's interesting to see how they only have one person by themselves, kind of on that island by themselves. I don't believe anybody on IF is playing. Oh no, they have on a Pixel as well. So there is some kind of network of control here for IF. Now you see, of course, you have the Jaeger of also Inrio playing towards new patch as well. So there is definitely a much more, not say aggressive, but a much more extended hold compared to PB's defense. And well, the first pick goes to Inrio from that new Balk area. Great shots from Inrio. And losing your Finka isn't the biggest thing. It's 2 grenades, though, and that's that boost that may be needed later on.
Not the worst pick to suffer, but Spirits as well, who's definitely been doing some work on the entry so far. Nothing amazing, but still, as you said, good gadget that you could lose for pushing into the site later on. We also saw how instrumental just even losing one operator, no matter who it was for IF's chances earlier, and Melted manages to land the trade, but it's just a little too late. He takes down Penguin on that Christmas rappel before he can do all the work necessary. Well, he opened up that castle barricade, and they pushed Mute down, but Parabellum sinking further and further into the dumps for man count.
Yeah, it sucks they didn't have someone on that, that window into Red Hall down on the second floor to get that cutoff on Vivid, who was jumping down the hatch. And, Giddy did get refragged, but still, dealing with Penguins still on the rappel, it's just, like you said before, deeper and deeper they go down the hole of being down that man advantage. And now the question is, how are they going to make this happen? Let's open up this single wall in Cocktail, try and push those players out of Cocktail. Let's see if they can do that. But of course, some players still in freezers, so you still have Disturbos, Inrios. Oh, Kool-Aid tries to run in. Inrios, they're ready for it though. And at this point now, it's just Melted and Eska. Melted's in bar, just looking around, but he still gets a kill onto Arrow. So Eska's big there, runs right in, and unfortunately can't get the kill. He tries to walk into Cocktail and take fights, but really, there's not much you can do here in those instances.
I don't know. We did not see it, but I don't know if you guys heard what happened on the Cocktail rappel. But Subarctic ran out on Eska. Both of them put the other to 25 HP, ran out of ammo, and like an old Western, had to draw their pistol as fast as possible to get the kill. That's what I heard, and I'm assuming happened. But Subarctic managed to get that. But that's the sad thing, is that had Eska actually got that kill, I think it would have been a 2v2 at that point, and a lot more doable. But Parabellum are finally taking their time out, Benny. And here's the thing. Obviously, it's their map pick. They're going to be a lot more comfortable, but IF have looked damn good so far. They have been winning this game outright.
It's been, yeah, we had this conversation pre-show, the fact that, we haven't seen IF play Kafe in so long. And like CJ said on the desk, last time we saw IF play Kafe on stream was they played Wave Runners and Outlast.
It's a
very different story.
Not the same.
Not at all. But at the same point, if you go back and look through their bans, they don't ban Kafe very often either, though.
No, that is true. But it's
let's see.
Well, but it's still a map that they haven't really gone to. It's a map that they haven't played nearly as much on game day. And here's the thing: even if, for all we know, this could be the best map in their pool, they've been hiding it for literal months. But we don't know that, because game day experience is so much more different than scrim experience on a map. And for a map like Kafe that they just haven't really played consistently against top tier teams, it's always a question mark. This has certainly been an impressive showing from IF so far. You don't really need to make any adjustments from their play. I mean, maybe a small thing here or there, but PB needed to take that time out. If not now, I don't know when else. Because they have to win 3 rounds in a row, and they might have had the favored side of attack against one shot, but that is not the same pattern here. That is not the same pattern.
This has been quite the interesting play from IF, though. And it's interesting that both teams are kind of adopting a very similar offensive lineup, but PB hasn't been quite as successful as IF has.
That's true, but also look at this, Benny. A rotation from Penguin from the Zofia to the Gridlock. Now I know
he was playing Zofia, yeah.
But Parabellum have always liked Gridlock a little bit more than other teams. Not so much they'll run her in every lineup, but they've always liked to play her a little bit more. Usually to try and get the plant down in sight, throw the track stingers around the site and around the bomb to make it difficult, and also use those smoke canisters as well. That's a much different role for Penguin than not only how he's been playing so far, but how he's been playing in the past month and a half or so inside of Challenger League so far.
But if we go back to this round last time, the Zofia wasn't that big of a deal, really, because of course there wasn't need to entry because there was no roam from IF. So I could see why they took him off the Zofia. seeing as how IF played this last time. And especially too, the last time they won this was because they had such control of that top floor. They created execute into sight and had Kool-Aid walk into sync. They had control upstairs. They had control of Red Hall, and they just stopped the rotations from IF. So really, Gridlock may be the perfect choice for this execute once again.
And again, they are certainly comfortable with it, so I'm not more so worried about this pick. Just Penguin of all ops, wouldn't expect it. But as we can see right here, here's the nice thing about Gridlock. If you are using her for flank watch, you can just throw those track stingers early on. Then once you're done with your primary utility, you can be an entry and you want. You can be a flank watch. If you use that utility, you put it on the floor, you don't need to worry all too much. But for IF as well, we haven't mentioned their lineup too much. It's pretty much the same overall. No changes throughout. But Arrow on that Echo, that's the big one I'm looking at. But instead, maybe I should have looked at Giddy Benny. Because he just took out the sledge on a kitchen attack, and you talked about how well that vertical control was for Parabellum, and his sledge's dead now. He's dead.
Yeah, because the big thing of the execute was getting that vertical control, creating those angles for you to gain that control, and just stop any rotation from them. Well, big thing too is also Red Hall. Red Hall was a big point that Spirits was at control of last time. So whether or not they can gain that same control and create that same execute is to be played now, because now that they've used a secondary shotgun, breach charges, try and open up this floor and create that control that they had last time when they had this site. So it's not all said and done losing the sledge, but it is definitely a scary prospect now that they still have to try and make this execute happen without that vertical control, or at least the amount they would like to have.
They will thankfully manage to open up that freezer hatch. You saw Kool-Aid struggling with it earlier, trying to use the X-Kairos to manage to find that Electro Claw through the floor. Now they will manage to open it. I think potentially a nade was the cause of that, and it's not all said and done for them just yet. They might have lost the opening pick, but they still have a lot of the angles they needed to make this entry work. But Spirits looks the wrong way! Inrio manages to maneuver around the shield. That could have been the entry to save the round for PB, but Inrio not only comes away with it, that shield is still alive. He's playing at his full strength. He can take down Kool-Aid as he tries to take this fight, or wait as long as he wants, but with the last bullet, he manages to find Vivid, but it's still Inrio launching a tear all over Parabellum's attack. IF take the first map of Kafe, their map pick as well, and it, at times, and for a good portion of that game, wasn't even close.
Yeah, that was a much different play compared to that first round where we saw them attack that site. And the big thing there was the fact that they could not blind Inrio. They did E1D. They didn't know where he was in VIP, sort of. But we saw Spirits running it, and then he just does a butt hook on that corner, expects him to be there, and he wasn't there, and there was nobody behind him when coming from Boots to try and at least refrag or be in a place to pinch out Inrio to get that refrag. So at that point, it was just Spirit by himself swinging, not finding the thing he wanted to, and then having to take a fight behind a shield, or Inrio behind a shield.
Well, so far, over the course of Stage 3, IF have been progressively getting better and better, and I think we can say with absolute certainty that is the pinnacle of their performance that we have seen so far. Benny and I won't distract any longer. We still have one more map after this, but before we get there, I'm going to throw it back to the desk to talk about how I think we all got our predictions wrong on how this map might go.